Good afternoon, Madam
Told
Chair.
us 15 minutes. I don't know. Can you fill up 15 minutes?
I'm going to hopefully save you some time on this
All right,
one.
you go right
This is a
ahead.
brief update on animal resources and care. I'm Carl Smart, Deputy County Manager, and have with me, let me quickly introduce our Shelter Supervisor, Farron Healy, and our Field Operations Supervisor, Faye Gould. And so they're here and to help back me up and answer any questions that you might have. We came to you on a special meeting on June 28th earlier in the summer, and we were advised to come back with an update on what's happening with animal resources and care. So that's why we're here to briefly update you. We've been focusing on primarily 4 areas. The first one was overcrowding, because we were severely overcrowded at the time, and so we've been focusing on that. Secondly, was improvements to the shelter and what progress we're making there. Our staffing level, filling vacancies, and then lastly, of course, your resolution to do the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. And so we'll talk a little bit about each of those areas. The first one, overcrowding, we implemented an emergency intake restrictions on animals. And so that meant basically that strays were restricted, healthy strays. We still were accepting those that were injured, appeared to be sick, those that were threatening to people in the neighborhood, and so we were still taking in, but we were limiting what we were taking in. It really has helped us to clear the crates. And I'll show you pictures later on showing you the crates are cleared, they're gone, and all the animals have been moved into kennels, so none are in crates at this time. And that's partly due to some successful adoption events that we'll talk about, a couple of them, one in July and one just recently in August. So you see the clean kennels, clear kennels, and that crate room is no longer has crates in it. These are the numbers. You see the top chart is the June 28th numbers. It was 247 animals in the shelter and 95 in foster care for a total of 342 animals. On August the 15th, there were 74. So quite a reduction. I didn't check that percentage, but that's a substantial reduction in the number of animals in the shelter, 62 in foster and 136 total. We've got a report for you, the latest report on the animals in the shelter, and Ms. Healy will pass that out shortly. You'll see that the numbers today, this morning, they were taken. There's 66 animals in the shelter, 66, 50 dogs and 15 cats and one other. We had the pig, and the pig has been successfully relocated to a farm, yes, just this morning. So that's going to be a good home for the
So
pig.
they'll miss her. She's been their mascot, I think, for a while.
Absolutely.
See?
They're going to miss the pig, actually. The 2 main adoption events, and the Best Friends event was in July, and you see it was a very highly successful event. 44 animals adopted that weekend of July 22nd, 22 dogs and 22 cats. And the recent event was Summer Lovin, August 13th. And we just have to give credit to the University of Florida Shelter Medicine Program. They came out with volunteers and just did a remarkable job. They had volunteers out front checking people in, volunteers in the office helping with adoption papers, and then volunteers at the kennels showing people animals, the dogs and cats, escorting them around through the kennels. And just a tremendous process. Staff working with volunteers, and 52 animals adopted that day. We cleared out all the adoptable cats. So it was a very successful event. So now that we have cleared space at the shelter. How do we return to normal operations? And we're doing that through a managed intake process. And that's been in collaboration with the University of Florida, talking with Dr. Lovin and the folks there at the University of Florida. Managing that intake means that we do it by phases and not all at once, so that we don't become overcrowded again right quickly. We will take owner surrenders by appointment only, and we will talk with the owners and see if there's something that can be done to resolve a situation between the owner and their animals. And a lot of times that can happen. They can get that resolved and decide to keep the animal instead of turning the animal back in. So we will work through that. Also, strays on a case-by-case basis. Again, taking those strays that are injured or aggressive, taking them in first. But if they're healthy strays, seeing if there's alternatives. Primary alternative is getting them back home. A lot of times they're not so much stray as they are just lost and loose. And so if we can get them back to their home, with our animal control officers, and look around the neighborhood and see if we can get them back to their home, then that will help a lot versus taking them to the shelter. And of course, emergency situations. If there is an animal abuse situation, something like that, we're going to go and take care of that. And if we have to accept the animals in, we're going to do that. And of course, as you've talked about in the last meeting, Alachua County residents only. So we'll be checking ID to try to help ensure that we're dealing with Alachua County residents. Improvements to the shelter have been ongoing. The temporary coverings, we thank the commissioner who donated the temporary coverings. We got those installed right away, and we have selected a contractor for the other improvements on the shelter, including sunshade over the outdoor kennels. There'll be a colorful sunshade that will provide a lot of shade for the animals on the outdoor kennels, as well as some water resistance. It'll be impervious to water, so it'll allow for adoptions during the rain. Permanent coverings will be installed by the contractor. We've improved the crate cleaning area. I think we have a picture of it. We thank the Public Works Department, Ramon Gavarete and his staff, for improving that area. Also, the contractor will take care of exterior walls, pressure cleaning, painting, the isolation area. Isolation for those animals that might be sick and need to be isolated from all the rest of the animals. We are making sure that we got a kennel area for that, as well as those animals that might be dangerous, and keeping them apart from all the rest of the animals. Improving the fencing. Some of our dogs are really creative in getting out of fenced-in areas, so we've got to improve the fencing in order to make sure we keep them in. Also, the cabinets and front lobby area. Landscaping has already been improved. It was done prior to the August 13th adoption event. And again, we thank facilities on that. Our new director, Dan Whitcraft, has been working with the shelter and doing an excellent job. Mr. Whitcraft is here today too, so if there's any questions for him. This is a picture of the new wash pad that that Public Works put in. They poured an area, and it had that in the middle area. There's a drain, so they can clean on that area. The water will drain in the center and then go into the storm wastewater system. Staffing is still a concern. We're still working on staffing. It's not it's an ongoing process. The difficulty in hiring in recruiting and hiring is similar to other areas. The director is positions in progress, and we think we're going to be making a final decision on that shortly. Administrative coordinator is posted. Customer service, we reclassified. We just hired a new customer service individual just recently, but also reclassifying a part-time position. We've hired a new kennel tech, and we always pretty much looking for kennel techs, onboarding one more. Animal control officers, the interviews went well recently, and we've got 3 that's onboarding, so we're Thankful for that. And then the investigative positions, 3 investigative positions, and that job is posted. Good news on Sarge. Sarge is one, the dog that's been around for over 300 days. He's been adopted. And so Sarge has a home. Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, as you know, you've made appointments on August 9th, and that was 6 out of the 7. The Sheriff Department is recommending a 7th, and so we'll be bringing that back to the board, that other recommendation. Our EVO coordinator, Education Volunteer Outreach Coordinator, will be serving as a liaison to that until we get a director on board. I would ask Ms. Healy if she would pass out and give you the kennel inventory for today, showing the 50 dogs that we have in the shelter, 15 cats, and also it shows it's a graph that shows the kennels that are empty versus filled. The light blue are the ones that are empty. The dark blue are the ones that are filled. So it's good to have space and capacity. And also there's a listing of how long have some of them been in the shelter. And Madam Chair, that concludes our presentation. We'd be glad to answer any questions that commissioners may have.
Madam Chair, I apologize did you bring up anything about the new shelter facility?
I did not. But
Okay. And so, Madam Chair, if I could just add, we have been working on the new shelter facility for some time. I can say that we do have some property that we have located. It is part of the University of Florida properties, I guess you could say. And so we are currently working with them, and they are going through with their internal process. But we are very hopeful that that will pan out, and we will be back to you all sooner rather than later. So it would be a great opportunity for collaboration with the University of Florida Veterinary Medicine, even more than what we have now. So we are very hopeful that that will pan out. But they are going through their internal process, and that's really all we can say right now.
Wonderful. Is it adjacent to the facility or do we know? I mean,
We're working on those issues, and that's just really all we can say about it right now.
all right, okay, fair enough. I'm just excited. I just want to know it all. All right, Commissioner Pritzia.
First, thank you. I think I hear a theme of collaboration working, collaboration with UF, collaboration with volunteer organizations, collaboration with different departments within our units, helping. So I'm excited to see that, and I appreciate all the work I know that it took to rebuild relationships and to bring people in, and the extra hours that I know it probably took to coordinate a lot of that. So thank you to everyone for getting all hands on deck. I hope it stays this way. I think it's on the right track, and it's exciting to see it going that direction. I guess I had a question and a comment, or 2 questions and a comment. The first question is, how are we going to continue to plan these types of adoption events, like on a quarterly basis or some regular basis, so we keep the momentum going with keeping the shelter somewhat reasonably filled? And do we have any plan for the future that we can announce? The second question is, we still have accounted here with what you just gave me about 20 animals that have been in the shelter at about 50 days or more. So that's more than a month in the shelter, right? In some cases, almost 2 months in the shelter. And once it gets to that point, behavioral problems really start to ramp up. It becomes more and more challenging to adopt them. And so I wonder if we've started to have any conversations about policies regarding those animals, if there's things that we can do in order to support those animals, and if keeping them incarcerated for such a long time is actually the right thing to be doing from a humane, sort of thoughtful perspective. I don't want to be a kill shelter, but I also don't want to be a shelter that's causing an animal to suffer for long, long periods of time unnecessarily. So just a question there. Thank you again for all your hard work.
Yeah, so I'll respond to what you just recently touched on. So every animal is a case-by-case basis. We can't ever say once an animal's here for 2 months, that's it. We're going to have to humanely euthanize them because it's been too long. It's just not fair. So everything is case by case. And if the animals that were in our shelter for a lengthy period of time, let's say over a month, over 2 months, start to deteriorate, we do take that into evaluation. If an animal is behaviorally deteriorating and it's not humane to keep them in the same kennel that they may have been in for months, we will make those hard decisions moving forward. That is something that has been discussed. But the ones that you see here, that's been here, 347 days, that's Cedric. He's kind of adjusted to shelter life at the moment. We don't like to see those numbers. We don't want an animal in the shelter for that long. Regardless of what we can do for them, it's never going to be enough in a shelter setting. So we absolutely will have this conversation. There's a panel of management that we, discuss every animal before we make the decision to, humanely euthanize someone or something. There's always going to be a harsh discussion there because, like you said, we never want to be deemed a kill shelter. I actually don't like that term because when you say, you're a no-kill shelter, there's a kill shelter, there's always an opposite side of the coin. But I like to say that we have a high live release rate. We're taking the, no-kill initiative to heart. But like you said, we will absolutely take every animal as a case-by-case basis and make those decisions when they need to be made. Yeah. And then in regards to the adoption events, so we are lucky that we have a very good relationship with the Best Friends Society, the Best Friends Animal Society. We created that relationship, and that was our first adoption event that we did. They luckily do events often, and we will likely partner with them for most, if not all, of their events as well. So hopefully they do quarterly events. We're actually planning one with them next month. So we will hopefully do an adoption event monthly, if not more often, if it makes sense to do so. But having Sarah in our EVO coordinator position, it's super helpful having her there to plan these events with us. But yes, we hope to do many more adoption events in the future. Drumming up that business and those relationships with those other organizations is super helpful. Yeah, you're welcome.
Farron, those adoptions, are generally successful. Yes, you don't.
Generally, we've had a few returns from our summer Lovin event for unforeseen things. The dog that they adopted doesn't get along with the dog that they have at home, those types of things, but it's far less. Like the amount of returns that we've gotten, I think we've gotten 4 or 5 returned out of, the 50 that were adopted. So it makes it worth it. And each one is just evaluated when they return to see what the issues were so that we can, improve on the next match.
Don't give them a bad record.
Exactly.
And for the dogs like this one that you mentioned that's been there that long, is there a way that we could set up with some of the rescue groups or the other, facilities that we could maybe swap or something?
Yep. So we actually, I do rescue pleas often for, our longer term animals or our rescue only dogs, which they might be rescue only for a behavioral issue or a medical issue. So those pleas go out often. We just did one for our longest term resident just to see. And I'm in communication with, Clay County actually about swapping dogs, their long-term dogs with our long-term dogs to see if maybe we can drum up something creative and getting new eyes on these animals. So we're definitely talking about doing something creative like that as well.
You're way ahead of me. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Farron or Mr. Smart? All right. Commissioner Cornell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So first of all, Michelle, thanks for the update, long-term update. On the short-term side, what's the timing of the capital improvements that have already been approved? When can we expect those to be completed?
They are starting, I've got a schedule from Mr. Woodcraft from facilities, and it looks like they're starting on September 1.
Okay.
And they'll be moving that point. All the contracts will be completed, and you'll see a lot of movement in September.
Okay, what about, are we ready, Carl, or have we already lifted this emergency status?
Yes, sir. We've already lifted it.
It's been lifted, it's a modified intake, I saw that slide.
Yeah.
Can you go to slide 4? So I'm blown away by this slide. This really am. Yeah. Look, we got a lot of people to thank. Staff, partners, volunteers, UF, the community. We're not there, but we have, I want to say we've turned a corner. And I really want to thank the staff for stepping up.
And Madam Chair, if I might, we are going to be launching our marketing and PR campaign in October. So I know you all had the opportunity to get a preview of that, of what it could be, the materials still have to be created. So we will be moving forward with that with the beginning of October, now that they're going to move forward to create all that.
Yeah, so I'll just conclude by saying thank you. I would really love a December update. I don't think we need a 60-day update, but I think there's a lot that we need to show we continue to do in the next couple of months. And if we could get a December update, I don't know if it needs to be 15 minutes, maybe it can be 10, but I want to kind of keep our eyes on this and continue to thank the folks that need to be thanked every day. So.
And Madam Chair, actually, I think you'll see us before that, because I think before then you will see us asking for you to confirm a new director. I think at some point before that, we will be back to you with property for approval. So, I mean, my hope would be that you will be seeing us multiple times before December, if all goes well, at least with those couple things. So, even if it's not an official update.
I was just going to ask too that when that launches the marketing and communications campaign, if we can get a reveal here as well, like maybe during the communications announcement. And just
Absolutely.
so we can see that and,
Yep.
And an update on the capital improvements. Great.
We can do that.
Exactly. And there are still volunteer forms already there, if anybody wants to grab one on the way out.
We're so thankful for all of our volunteers. Like you mentioned, all the stakeholders, staff, the community turned out, and they saw the need to reduce this overcrowding, and they really stepped up. And so we just thank everyone for all of their help and making the progress that we've made.
Yeah, and if you would let me know, Carl, when you get that painting done on the front part of it, so that we can get started on that mural too, that would be
Absolutely.
great. Thank you.